We've said that the first principle of this universe is narrative. But before you use narrative to drive action, you need to understand something. Most popular narratives are not very useful. In fact, people live immersed in myth without even realizing it. If you want to see reality clearly, you must break away from myth thinking. And to do that, you must learn to respect the hard constraints of the world. Let's start with something familiar, popular fiction, because it's a great way to train your ability to see through illusions. I love reading novels. They let me imagine richer, more interesting lives. Even wishful thinking can be comforting. But if you are not careful, you might end up reading yourself into a childlike mindset. Let's classify fictional stories into 6 levels, based on how unrealistic they are. Level 1. Cheat codes. The protagonist is completely ordinary, no special talent, no advantage. Then suddenly, they gain a superpower, a magical artifact, a built-in system, some hidden ability. They are chosen, and they defeat everyone. Think of superhero stories like those in the Marvel Universe. Even Harry Potter starts this way. This is pure fantasy. It appeals to the simplest dream, winning without effort. Level 2. The powerful falls in love with me. The protagonist has one minor virtue, maybe kindness, and that's enough to attract someone powerful. Think Cinderella, or stories where an ordinary person gets elevated through someone else's favor. The underlying desire is, I won't actively pursue anything, but since I'm a good person, the world should reward me. Level 3. The noble hero. The protagonist is kind, hardworking, and endures hardship, but they never chase fame or wealth. Success comes to them naturally, as long as they stay true to themselves. This reflects a belief, if you don't compete, you will still win. Level 4. Leveling up. Now the protagonist understands that the world is harsh. They actively compete. They are willing to make trade-offs. They believe, my fate is in my hands. Most modern web novels are in this category, but there's still a hidden myth that effort always leads to progress, that paying a price guarantees results. Reality offers no such certainty. Level 5. Fighting the system. Here, the protagonist realizes they are not special. Effort doesn't guarantee success. Good people don't always win. Yet, they still choose to resist. Stories like Game of Thrones or Dream of the Red Chamber belong here. The myth at this level is, at least you know who is right. Even if you lose, you can stand on the side of justice. But, in reality, even that clarity may not exist. Level 6. Searching for meaning. This is closest to reality. There are no clear heroes or villains. No absolute right or wrong. Sometimes, you don't even know what the meaning of life is. Works like To Live, Brave New World. You realize order is necessary, but order itself can be oppressive. Even this level is still subjective. All narratives are. We all need some form of narrative to find meaning, but ideally, you choose one with a more complex model, and one where you still have agency. Most people live in the first few levels. Their life narratives are essentially just wish-making. The biggest difference between reality and imagination is this. Reality has hard constraints you cannot bypass. Let's take an example. Imagine you're a food enthusiast. You've perfected a steak recipe at home. Perfect temperature, elegant presentation. You think, I can beat any restaurant in town. So you decide to open a high-end steakhouse. But suddenly, you enter a completely different world. You must wake up at 4 a.m. to secure quality ingredients, deal with logistics delays, customize equipment, manage production capacity, set pricing correctly, pass safety inspections, handle customer complaints. You realize restaurants simplify things for a reason. Only when you run a business do you understand real constraints. The bigger the endeavor, the more constraints there are, and the less room you have for free expression. People often assume that powerful individuals have more freedom, that politicians can just decide things based on their will. But reality is the opposite. The higher you go, the more constraints you face. Eventually, you are forced to act rationally. You must balance interests, relationships, processes, trade-offs. Even small reforms become difficult. In January 2025, U.S. President Donald Trump began his second term. He appointed Elon Musk to lead the Department of Government Efficiency. The goal? Cut $2 trillion from federal spending. Sounds bold? Even heroic. But let's do the math. The total federal budget was about $6.8 trillion. Over 60% is mandatory spending, like healthcare and Social Security, untouchable without changing laws. Another 13% goes to debt interest, also unavoidable. That leaves about 27%. Half of that 13% is defense spending, politically untouchable. So what's left? About 14%, less than $1 trillion. How do you cut $2 trillion from less than $1 trillion? Even within that $1 trillion, everything has purpose. Education, healthcare, infrastructure, research, governance. What do you cut? Musk targeted foreign aid, research funding, not because they mattered least, but because they were easiest. He also laid off federal employees and later had to rehire some. Within months, his reputation declined sharply. Eventually, he stepped down, saying, "Improving Washington is an uphill battle." By late 2025, DOGE claimed $200 billion in savings. But independent analyses suggested, after accounting for costs, severance, lawsuits, inefficiencies, the effort may have actually increased spending. At the beginning, people were excited, but in the end, not only did it fail, it wasn't even clear who the enemy was. You can't fight arithmetic. That's what hard constraints are. Not someone opposing you, but reality itself limiting you. In my view, there are 4 constraints we can never escape. 1. Conservation of energy. Everything requires energy. Building, destroying, computing, nothing is free. 2. Time windows. Opportunities exist only in certain periods. Miss the window, and you must wait. 3. Natural laws. Systems evolve according to their own rules. Your will cannot override them. 4. Other people's agency. Everyone can act. You are not the only protagonist. Others are not NPCs. You cannot have whatever you want. Start whenever you wish. Control every outcome. Many grand ideas collapse under basic calculation. Take the idea of an advanced underground civilization. Sounds mysterious, maybe even plausible, but calculate energy. Surface civilization depends on solar energy. Earth absorbs about 120,000 terawatts from the sun. Geothermal energy underground, only about 47 terawatts. That's 1 in 2,600. Without sunlight, no photosynthesis, no large-scale food production. Even with artificial systems, energy limits would cap population at a few million at most. And small populations cannot sustain complex innovation. So how could they outperform surface civilization? They can't. Big narratives fear one thing: calculation. Whenever someone says, "We can do anything," just ask, who pays for it? Effective narratives must operate within constraints, not treat the world as a wish fulfillment machine. For the immature, this is bad news. You don't have total freedom. But for the mature, this is good news. Constraints create predictability, structure, learnability, and most importantly, if you can't do anything you want, neither can anyone else. That's what gives the world a baseline of fairness and stability. Respect constraints first, then take action. That's it for today's content. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.